In 2021, the United States Air Force pushed a wooden pallet out the back of a C-17 cargo plane over a test range in Norway. The pallet was carrying live cruise missiles. As it fell, the missiles separated from the pallet, ignited their engines, and flew toward their targets. The program is called Rapid Dragon, and the Air Force has been pushing it toward operational status for nearly 5 years. The official story is that this is American innovation at work, a clever way to turn cargo aircraft into bombers, multiplying the strike capacity of the U.S. Air Force overnight. The official story is technically true and strategically misleading at the same time. Rapid Dragon exists because the Pentagon has quietly concluded that the United States does not have enough cruise missile launch platforms to fight the war it is currently planning for. And converting cargo planes into improvised bombers is the cheapest way to hide that fact. The deeper question is how a country that builds the world's most expensive military arrived at the point where it is palletizing missiles out of cargo planes. The answer involves a shrinking bomber fleet, a Pacific theater that the Air Force is not equipped for, and a procurement system that quietly failed long before anyone wanted to admit it. The Rapid Dragon program officially began in 2019 under the Air Force Research Laboratory, but the strategic problem it was built to solve had been visible to defense planners for at least a decade before that. The United States bomber fleet has been shrinking continuously since the end of the Cold War. The Air Force entered the 2020s with the smallest long-range bomber force it has fielded since the 1940s. That number includes the 76 B-52 H Stratofortresses, the 20 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, and the roughly 45 B-1B Lancers still in active service. A combined inventory smaller than the bomber force the United States had at any point during the Cold War. The problem was made worse by geography. A potential conflict in the Pacific, particularly one involving the defense of Taiwan, would require a massive number of long-range precision strikes against Chinese targets across thousands of kilometers of contested airspace. American war games conducted by think tanks and Pentagon planning offices through the late 2010s consistently concluded that the existing bomber fleet did not have the capacity to deliver enough cruise missiles in the opening days of such a conflict to achieve operational objectives. Rapid Dragon was the cheapest available answer. Instead of building new bombers, which take decades and cost tens of billions of dollars, the Air Force decided to convert cargo aircraft it already owned into improvised cruise missile launchers. The C-17 and the older C-130 became the foundation of the program. The Air Force already operates more than 200 C-17As alone. The entire Rapid Dragon system is built around a wooden deck pallet that fits inside the cargo bay of standard military transport aircraft. A weapon system that costs the Pentagon billions of dollars in development relies, at its core, on a piece of plywood. The pallet, technically called a Battlefield Airborne Communications Node Deployment System, holds up to 9 AGM-15 8-joint air-to-surface standoff missiles in its C-17 configuration, or 6 in the smaller C-130 version. The JASSM is a stealthy, long-range cruise missile with a range exceeding 900 kilometers in its extended-range variant, capable of striking hardened targets with a 1,000-pound warhead. When the pallet is rolled out the rear cargo ramp, a parachute deploys to stabilize its fall. As the pallet descends, the missiles release one at a time, ignite their engines, and proceed to their pre-programmed targets independently. The technical innovation is not the missile and not the pallet. It is the software and communications architecture that allows the missiles to receive updated targeting data after launch, coordinate with each other in flight, and adjust their attack profiles based on real-time intelligence. A single C-17 carrying a full Rapid Dragon loadout can theoretically deliver 9 cruise missiles to targets 900 kilometers away, roughly the same strike capacity as a B-1B bomber on a similar mission. but using an aircraft that costs significantly less per flight hour to operate and is available in numbers the bomber fleet cannot match. In 2024, the Air Force confirmed publicly what defense analysts had been saying privately for years. The United States does not produce enough JASSM cruise missiles to sustain a high-intensity Pacific war for more than a few weeks. The most ambitious palletized weapons program in American history was built around a missile the Air Force cannot manufacture fast enough to keep up with its own deployment plans. Lockheed Martin, the JASSM manufacturer, has reported producing several hundred missiles per year. Pentagon studies and reporting from defense outlets, including Defense News and Aviation Week, have indicated that a major Pacific contingency could consume the entire annual production within days of opening combat operations. The Pentagon has responded by funding production increases. The Air Force requested approximately 550 JASSM-class weapons in its 2024 budget. But the manufacturing base has been slow to expand, and the workforce, supply chain, and tooling required to dramatically scale production are not problems that money alone solves quickly. Rapid Dragon's other quiet problem is integration. The program was demonstrated successfully in test environments, but the operational employment of palletized munitions in contested airspace introduces variables that the test phase did not fully replicate. A C-17 is not a stealth aircraft. It is a large, slow, unmaneuverable cargo plane with no air-to-air capability. Deploying Rapid Dragon in a real conflict would require either operating from outside the threat range of enemy air defenses, which limits the missile's effective reach, or accepting that the aircraft and crew would be operating in environments they were not designed to survive. Rapid Dragon multiplies strike capacity on paper while leaving the platform vulnerability problem completely unsolved. In late 2024, the Air Force conducted what it described as the first operational training event for Rapid Dragon involving European-based allies, deploying the system from Mihail Kogelnicianu Air Base in Romania, a clear signal that the program is being prepared for use in the European theater as well as the Pacific. The system is reportedly being integrated into U.S. Special Operations Command planning for both theaters simultaneously. That timeline tells the rest of the story. Rapid Dragon is moving toward operational status not because the program is finished, but because the strategic environment has run out of patience. The Air Force is fielding a stopgap solution and calling it a capability. Russia's war in Ukraine demonstrated that high-intensity conflicts consume precision-guided munitions at rates that even American industry struggles to match. China's continued military expansion has shortened every Pacific wargaming scenario in the Pentagon. The pressure to deploy whatever can be deployed as quickly as possible has overridden the more honest conversation about why the bomber fleet was allowed to shrink to its current size in the first place. The deeper unresolved question is whether the broader strategy works at all. Rapid Dragon can multiply launchers, but it cannot multiply missiles. If JASSM production does not dramatically increase, the program risks becoming a delivery system without a payload. A fleet of cargo planes ready to launch cruise missiles the United States cannot actually produce in wartime quantities. That is not a procurement success story. It is a planning failure dressed up as innovation. Thanks for watching. Rapid Dragon is one of those programs where the marketing video shows you American ingenuity, and the underlying numbers show you something significantly more uncomfortable. A great military does not need to invent palletized cruise missile delivery from cargo planes. A great military needs enough bombers and enough missiles. And the United States currently has neither. If you found this useful, subscribe and stay with us. Next time, we are looking at the cruise missile at the center of all of this, the JASSM itself, and the production crisis that nobody in Washington has yet figured out how to solve. See you then.